Hello. Today I'm going to explain my SBRU database. So real quick, SBRU stands for Spring Break R Us, and it's a travel agency that helps college students find affordable discounts for planning a group or individual vacation for either the spring or winter break. So basically, my database has 10 tables, and I'm going to explain what each one is right now. So the first table we have is the customer table. And when I run my code, here it is. And the customer table, it basically explains how many customers we have checking in with us and which location and hotel they're planning to stay at. So the first column of the customer table is the customer ID number. Then we have the customer first and last name, followed by the destination name that the customer is planning to stay at. And the next column we have is the resort name. So it's the name of the resort, the SBRU resort that the customer has requested to stay at. And then we have the package ID number, which I'll explain what that is shortly, like later in the video. And lastly, we have the last column we have is the customer's email. For the next table, we have the booking table, and the booking table basically tells us how long each customer is planning to stay at the resort that they chose and what time they're planning to check in and check out of that resort. So the first column that we have is the booking ID number, followed by the customer's first and last name, then the destination location that they're planning to stay at with SBRU, followed by the SBRU hotel that they have chosen. And then the next column we have is the duration column. So it's basically telling us how many days the customer is planning to stay at that hotel. And we have their check-in and check-out times. So with the check-in and check-out times, it's usually followed by the date that they're coming, followed by the time that they've chosen to check in and check out. And we have a lateness policy where if you are an hour late for your check-in time or an hour late for your checkout time, you will receive a $100 additional fee added to your final payment balance that needs to be paid within 3 days of receiving the late fee email. And then the last column we have is the book status, which is short for booking status, and it basically lets customers know if they are confirmed to come in at the time they have requested to stay at their chosen SBRU resort. So the three options they would normally would see is confirmed, and confirmed means that they were allowed to come at the time that they have chosen to come at and the location. Pending means that we're still reviewing your information and we will get back to you eventually. And rejected with no space. When you receive this option, that means that the location that you have requested is full and we cannot host you at that location. And in the email that you'll receive from us about this, we will provide you with additional options for alternative times you can come in to that resort to stay at, or we will provide you with you could stay at another resort location for the time that you're requesting to stay for your vacation. And lastly, we have rejected because you failed to submit a payment. So if you do not submit your final vacation plan payment within 3 days of receiving an email asking for your payment, then you unfortunately will be not be forced, but you will be asked to leave through the SBRU room that you are staying at within a day of receiving the email asking you to leave. The next table I will be talking about is the resort table. And the resort table basically tells us which resort each customer is planning to stay at with SBRU. So the first column of the resort table is the resort ID number, followed by the resort name that they're planning to stay at, and then the customer name, their first and last name, and then the customer's email, and then The next columns are the booking ID number, the contract ID number, and the insurance ID number. I will explain what these three columns mean coming up. So first, let's talk about the insurance table. So the insurance table basically tells us that when each SBRU hotel insurance plan lasts. So we are proud to say that all of our SBRU locations are insured. Each resort has their own insurance policy. So basically, when you look at the insurance table, you'll see the insurance ID number, and then the next column is the resort name, so the SBRU hotel. And then the next column, the most important one, is the expiration date. So it basically tells customers when our insurance plan for that hotel will expire. And SBRU is really good at renewing insurances, so there's no need to worry on that end. So for the next table, we have the team table, and this table is used to book group vacations. So with a group vacation, how it normally works is that there's only four people that are allowed to be on the same group vacation plan. And out of the four people, you have to choose one member that will be responsible for submitting the final payment for your group vacation plan. And yeah, that's how the group table works. So basically in the group table, you'll see the team ID number followed by the team amount. And the team amount basically tells us how many people are in your group. Then we will have the team leader name followed by the team leader name. And the team leader will is basically the person that's responsible for submitting the final payment for your group vacation plan. Then we have the resort name, so it's the hotel, the SBRU hotel that the whole group will be staying at, followed by the contract ID number and the booking ID number. The next table that we have here is the destination table, and it's just telling us which destination location each customer is staying at and the hotel that they're staying at. So the first column of the destination table is the destination ID number, then it's the destination name. So it's like the location that each customer has chosen to stay at. Then the next column is the SBRU resort. So it's like the SBRU hotel each customer is staying at, and then followed by the customer's first and last name. And then the last column is the customer's email. The next table is the payment table, and the payment table basically tells us how each customer is planning to pay for their vacation plan and if we have received their payment on time, late, or if we didn't receive their payment at all. So the first column of the payment table is the payment ID number. Then the next column is the payment type. So there's two payment options you can submit using card, either credit or debit card online, or you can submit in person. You can submit your payment in person with cash. If you do an online payment, you would have 3 days to pay the balance once you receive an email requesting for you to pay your payment balance. And if you choose to submit your payment in person, then the day you check in, you have a day after you check in to your room to submit the payment. And if you fail to submit your payment a day after you check in, then you will be asked to leave your hotel room within 24 hours. You and any members that you have in your party will be asked to leave. Then we have the next column is the customer's name, followed by the the SBRU hotel that they're planning to stay at, and their contract ID number is the next column. And lastly, the last column of the payment table is the pay status, and which is short for payment status, and it basically tells us whether we received your payment on time, late, or not at all. So if we received your payment on time, then you're allowed to stay at the SBRU hotel that you've reserved with no problems. If we received your payment late, then you will receive a late fee. So If your payment is a day late, it's $100. 2 days late is $200. 3 days late is $300. And if it's been 3 days and you still have not submitted a payment, then you will be asked to leave the SBRU room that you're staying at. You'll receive an email and be asked to leave in 24 hours. Okay, now we have next table we have is the package table, and the package table basically tells customers which type of room they're going to be staying in, either a single, double, triple room, and the total price it will cost for them to stay in that room. So basically, the first column of the payment of the package table is the package ID number, followed by their payment ID number. Then the next column we have is the customer's first and last name, followed by the hotel name that they're staying at, the SBRU hotel. Then the room type, which there's four room types. We have single, double, triple, or quadruple, and single, one person, double, two people, triple, three people, quadruple, four people. And it's to note that single is always going to be the most expensive room option to stay in, just so you know. And then the next column we have is the package price. So the package price is the total price it will cost you to stay in that room. So we determine the package price based on the amount of days that you have requested to stay in the hotel room and the rate it costs to stay per night in that hotel room. So we multiply how much it costs to stay in that room per night times the amount of days that you're staying there to give you your final package price. And the next column we have is the booking ID number and the check-in and check-out ID number. So for the check-in and check-out ID, for the check-in and check-out table, this basically tells us when each customer is planning to check in and check out of their hotel, the SBRU hotel that they're staying at. So the first column of the check-in and check-out table is the check-in and check-out ID, followed by the customer's first and last name, followed by the SBRU hotel that they're staying at, so the resort name. Then the desk name is the destination location that they're staying at. And then the check-in and check-out times, it tells us what day that the customer is planning to come and the time that they're planning to check in. And if you're late by an hour with checking in or checking out, then you would receive a $100 fine on your balance, your account balance. And the last column we have is the contract ID number. And for the final table of the database, we have the contract table, and the contract table is usually something we send to customers once they have finished their application, their online application with SBRU, and it's just a summary of their whole entire vacation plan. So in the contract table, you would find the rate it costs to stay in your hotel room per night and whether or not you are confirmed to check in at your SBRU location or not. So basically, the first column of the contract table is the contract ID number, followed by the customer's first and last name. Then the next table is the resort name. So it's the SBRU hotel the customer is choosing to stay at. And the rate per night is basically the price that it will cost to stay at the room per night. So depending on whatever room they chose, single, double, whatever, it will provide them with the price it costs to stay at that room. And to know each SBRU location, hotel has their own different rates per night. So if it looks weird to you, like, why am I paying this amount of money? It's just the hotel system. Each hotel has their own system. And then we have the payment ID number, the check-in and check-out ID number, and the con status, which is short for contract status. So it lets customers know whether or not they have filled in all the parts of their SBRU application and they're allowed to come in and check in at the SBRU hotel or not. So if a confirmed con status, that means every part of your application has been filled out and you're allowed to come in at your check-in time. However, if you're rejected, that means you're missing some part of your application and you need to turn that in to us immediately. And the most common part that's always missed is the payments. So make sure you turn that in. And if you have any questions, then you can always contact SBRU guest services at sbru.org. So now I'm just gonna briefly show you, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna briefly show you the business process diagram and the entity table relationships for the database. Well, let me just share that right now. So we're gonna first start with the um entity relationships. So the entity table relationships, as I said before, there's 10 tables in the SBRU database. So for the first two, we have customer and destination. They follow a many-to-many entity relationship because there's many different customers and they have many different options for choosing what SBRU destination they would like to stay at, whether it's Mexico, Florida, whatever. Then we have the resort to booking tables, and they first follow a many-to-many entity relationship where it's like there's many different resorts a customer can choose to stay at, and there's many different booking plans that they can choose. So the booking plan would just say how long the customer is planning to stay at the SBRU resort and what time they're planning to check in and check out of that resort. So the next one we have is the resort to insurance tables, and they follow a many to one relationship, entity relationship, because there's many different resorts. However, each resort has one unique insurance plan, so that's why it's many to one. Then we have the payment to group tables, and the payment table, it's the payment and group table follows a one-to-one identity relationship because for each group, only one person is responsible for submitting one final payment. Then we have the contract to group tables, and they follow a one-to-many identity relationship because each group will all each group will have the same contract. So every member of that group will be following the same contract. So they will be paying, so they will be staying in the same room. Like the contract will tell them that they'll be staying in the same room and they'll be paying the same final price, all of that good stuff. Then we have the contract to check in and check out times where it's one contract, which follows a one-to-many relationship because there's only for each contract, this can only be one contract for each customer or each group. And there's several different check-in and check-out times that a customer can choose to come in and check into the hotel or check out of the hotel that they're staying at. Then we have the destination to package tables. They follow a many-to-many identity relationship because there's many different destinations a customer can choose to stay at, and there's many different packages that they have options to. So the package will basically tell the customer what type of room they have access to, if they're going to stay in a single, double, whatever, and the final price that they will be paying for that room once they, yeah, the final price for the room. Then we have the booking to package, and they follow a many-to-many identity relationship because the booking will just tell us how many days a customer is planning to stay with us, and there's many different options a customer can choose for that, and the package will just tell us which room they're staying at and the price that they're going to pay at the end of it, and there's many different options a customer can choose from for that. And the last table we have is group to package. So it follows a one-to-one relationship because for each group, they're all staying in the same room. So that is why it's a one-to-one. Every member of the group is going to be staying in the same hotel room. So, yeah. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to show you the business process diagram. So the business process diagram, it basically tells, it basically gives you an overview on how the application process is going to work. And as you can see, it looks very complicated. But just to summarize it, what a customer has to do is they go to www.sbru.com, and either an individual customer or the group leader of a group vacation, they'll just start an application. So for individuals, they could just start it, no problem. But for students that want to do a group plan, the group leader has to start the application and then invite and then write the emails of the other members of their party onto the application to invite them to join the application. And once the other members receive that email from SBRU saying, hey, your group leader has started your vacation plan. Please click on this link. Please click on the application link and sign the bottom of it confirming that you will be attending this vacation. Each member has to do that in order for the whole group to continue moving forward with the application process. So, yeah. So basically how the business process diagram works is each time a customer completes a section of the application, they'll receive a confirmation email saying that thank you for completing this section of the application. And it's just a bunch of steps on that stuff until you finalize your entire application. The final part of the business process diagram is submitting the payment, and once the payment is submit, then you are allowed to check into the hotel. So yeah, that is my SBRU database, and thank you for watching.